Did you know that the movie The Lorax, In Search of the Lost Truffula, was inspired by a diary containing tragic accounts? Have you ever heard of the evil version of the Lorax, Truax? The Lorax meme has become quite famous. And perhaps you have no idea, but the story behind the Lorax is much sadder and crueler than you can imagine. Let's now uncover all the mystery behind the tragic and real story that may have inspired this animated film. When someone says there are only Disney and DreamWorks in the world of animation, Illumination looks and laughs. Yeah, folks, for quite some time now, the studio that created the Minions and Company has been making a strong presence in cinemas. Just ask Super Mario Bros. The movie. And today, we're going to talk about one of the coolest animations from the studio, The Lorax, In Search of the Lost Truffula. The film was released in 2012.
Makes me very nostalgic for the good old days.
So, quite a few summers have passed since then, but recently, the film has been gaining a lot of prominence again, mainly because of the message it conveys.
How bad? How bad can this possibly be?
So, if you've already watched this movie, rest assured that we're going to tell you many things you had no idea about. And if you haven't watched it yet, you're going to learn the origin of everything that inspired the whole story. Before we delve into the real origin of the Lorax's story, we need to know that the film was the third one released by Illumination, following Despicable Me and Hop. The film performed well at the box office and managed to convey, to some extent, the message of the book that inspired the movie.
Did you chop down this tree?
No.
I think he did it.
The book with the same name was released in 1970 and tells a somewhat different story from what we see in the film. It was written by Dr. Seuss, an author of children's books. In fact, Dr. Seuss was a pseudonym, a fake name he used to write his books, as his real name was Theodore Geisel. Some claim he did this because big and powerful corporations hated Seuss's books, and he took precautions to avoid personal problems. Now, you might be wondering why those corporations hated his children's books so much. If you've watched The Lorax or know its story, you must know that it heavily criticizes the big industries that will do anything to make more and more money, just like Onceler, the man responsible for completely destroying the Truffula forest. And that's one of the changes between the book and the film. In the book, Onceler is the only villain in the story. There is no O'Hare, the other villain, and in the book, he is truly just evil and greedy, not a poor boy who is rejected by his family and only seeks success.
Tend to keep on biggering and turning more truffula trees into thieves. And nothing is going to stop me.
That's just one of the many differences between the original book and the story depicted in the movie. So, the Lorax is kind of a messenger from Mother Nature who can hear the trees' cries of pain when they are cut down and tries to convince Onceler to stop his greedy actions that were affecting the entire nature.
What are you doing here?
Happy yet? You feel that hole deep down inside you? Or do you still need more?
Including animals like the barbaloots, a bear species that fed on truffula fruits, as well as birds and fish that inhabited the area. However, all in vain, as Onceler doesn't stop until he cuts down the last truffula tree, which becomes the final cry of pain heard by the now lonely Lorax. So, as you've noticed, the Lorax contains strong criticisms and is entirely focused on environmentalism and nature preservation. Now that you know the story that inspired the movie, you can learn the story that inspired the book. Just as Illumination softened the story from the book, Dr. Seuss also softened the real story to publish his book for children. And that's why we're going to tell you now. In 2021, a series of diary pages was discovered on the internet, found under a pile of rocks, and due to the terms used in it, there is a strong possibility that it served as the basis for the Lorax and was written by Dr. Seuss. It vividly describes, day after day, the process in which an industry called Oncelers arrived and started clear-cutting an entire forest. I'll read some strong and exclusive excerpts here just for you, but first, if you're enjoying the video, comment down below, #Lorax, so we know you're enjoying the video or love the movie. The diary begins. Day 1. Today, I was called out of my burrow when I heard the cry of a truffula tree. I confronted the young man who was cutting down the tree. He said he was going to make a multi-purpose garment with its tufts. Day 7. Dozens of people showed up and started cutting down the trees today. I can't believe how fast they are. The Barbaloots and I embrace the trees, but there are so many Truffalas that the workers simply cut down others. Day 12, they killed Barbala, one of the Barbaloots. He was tampering with a machine's engine when a security guard shot him. Onceler took Barbala's body. We will always remember your sacrifice, Barbala. The diary goes on for days, and at the end, there is a list with 578 names, presumed to be those who died during the deforestation process. It also mentions that truffula seeds take 10 months to start growing, 10 years to become trees, and another 10 years to bear fruit, just like in Dr. Seuss's book. Thus, this diary explains that truffula trees were definitively extinct from nature, preventing any confirmation of the diary's authenticity. In some way, it is believed that Dr. Seuss had access to this material, which inspired him to write his book, eventually becoming this illumination movie. Theorists believe this happened when he spent a few days in Africa, in the same location where recently some scientists discovered some evidence that may have inspired the Lorax book. And we're gonna tell you what they are. Dr. Seuss was an environmentalist who enjoyed traveling to exotic locations and discovering new types of animals and plants. He and his wife visited a wildlife reserve in Kenya, Africa, in the same year the Lorax was written, but before its publication. During their visit, they certainly encountered a species called the Potus monkey. This monkey is completely distinct from any other primate. Take a look at their unique facial fur, which forms a mustache-like pattern, and their vibrant orange color. Don't you think they resemble someone?
Coincidence? I think not!
Dr. Seuss was undoubtedly inspired by this animal when creating the Lorax, as they share striking resemblances and inhabit the location he visited prior to writing his book. What's even more fascinating is that the Potus monkey relies heavily on a tree called Acacia drepanalobium, which produces small, wine-colored fruits similar to those consumed by the Barbaloots before the Onceler depleted all the truffula trees. This connection makes perfect sense since both in the book and in the movie, the Lorax speaks for the trees. This aligns with the inspiration drawn from the Potus monkey, which depends on trees for survival. Therefore, the Lorax is not a forest caretaker, but a member of its ecosystem, which is quite remarkable. Dr. Seuss undoubtedly drew inspiration from real animals and trees to write his story. As for the diary, its authenticity cannot be verified, remaining an enigma. However, its narrative perfectly aligns with the names of the characters and the details observed in the Lorax. One notable aspect is the fact that the name Onceler found in the diary is the same given to the villain in the Lorax. Similarly, there is an undeniable resemblance between the Potus monkey and the character of the Lorax, as illustrated by Dr. Seuss. Another undeniable fact is that companies and industries of that era made relentless efforts to suppress the children's book. Failing to do so, they created their own children's tale, a bizarre opposite version of the Lorax, called Truax. The story of Truax is bizarre and quite strange, and there won't be enough time to tell it here in this video, but it certainly exists. So tell us, would you like us to make a video telling this absurd and bizarre version of the Lorax called Truax? Leave a comment below. In both the movie and the book, Onceler was left completely alone in his abandoned factory. Since the trees were gone, the animals either died or went somewhere else, and even the Lorax himself, while pulling his tail, ascended to a small and solitary patch of blue sky that could still be seen. Only one last seed remained, which Onceler gave to the boy so he could plant and take care of it. At the same time, he finally understands the words that the Lorax left behind on a pile of stones, which read, "Unless." Onceler realizes that it means, unless someone cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. By speaking these words to the boy and uttering this phrase, Onceler shows his remorse, but also demonstrates that the harm done can only be fixed by those who come after, just like that boy who could do so by planting the last truffula seed, and, who knows, creating a new truffula forest over the years. Many years. That was the tragic story that many believe served as inspiration for the creation of the Lorax, the book, and subsequently, the movie. Tell us, what did you think of all this? Have you watched the Lorax? Are you interested in watching it? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our upcoming videos. Until next time, bye-bye!